Hello, my name is Greg Ariani and I'm an associate professor in the biology department. The course I'm going to be describing is a hybrid version of our Biology 102 course, which is Anatomy and Physiology 2. This course is a requirement for students entering several programs in advanced curricula, including the healthcare track in biology, exercise science, nursing, radiography, respiratory therapy, and the newly approved Public Health Associate in Science degree. This Biology 102 course was offered for the first time in the spring of 2015. I'd certainly be remiss not to thank all the people who made the development and execution of this course possible, including the following: Dr. Maureen Stivala, Director of Academic Services, for her review and approval of the course Design, Redesign Development Grant; Shelley Kurland, Instructional Designer at our Center for Teaching Excellence, for her expertise in guiding development of this course each step of the way, for offering suggestions about the implementation to enrich the learning experience for our students taking the course, and for her valuable assistance during the first portion of the course implementation. Dr. Maria Itzaza, Chair of the Department of Biology and Chemistry, for her continued support of my efforts to implement this course and for her advice and assistance in scheduling our laboratory sessions. Professor Kathy Napick, our laboratory supervisor, who made sure that we had everything we needed for our extended laboratory sessions on Saturdays. Kevin Chen, for his expert advice and assistance in scheduling our students for their testing and making accommodations to see that all their assessment requirements were completed on time. And last but certainly not least, my students, who graciously tolerated the kinks and rough spots we had during the first running of the course, and for always giving me an education. Biology 102 is a continuation of Biology 101, which is Anatomy and Physiology 1, and is really a very challenging course even when it's offered on campus due to its information-intensive nature. In order for students to be successful in the course, students have to develop an understanding of the functional anatomy and the physiological processes of many systems in the body, including the blood and cardiovascular, lymphatic and immune, respiratory, digestive, endocrine, urinary, and reproductive systems. Students must also come away with a physiological understanding of water, electrolyte, and acid-base balance. This is an integrated topic that combines concepts from several other body systems and serves as an excellent capstone module for the course, since students are required to demonstrate an understanding of the interrelationships of several body systems. I was interested in redesigning CCM's On-Campus Biology 102 or AMP2 course as a hybrid course to allow students some additional flexibility in completing their coursework and also to create a richer experience for them. However, I knew that development of the hybrid format for an information-intensive, concept-rich course like AMP2 would be challenging, since an in-depth understanding of what can be difficult topics at times is needed. A major challenge was to find a way to present the topics in a logical and pedagogically sound order, and also in a format that the students would be comfortable with given their everyday use of technology. Although I wanted to use a format very similar to that used in the on-campus course, I knew I would have to make some changes to both the order and the content of the material, and at the same time cover all the topics in a depth that was sufficient to meet the learning objectives. And that's what I want to talk about next, is the learning objectives that I used for the course. One of the advantages I had in designing this hybrid course was that the learning objectives were already clearly laid out. Over the past 16 years to teach anatomy and physiology, I've been using the learning objectives from the Human Anatomy and Physiology Society, as you see here on their website. This is a national society dedicated to improving teaching and learning of anatomy and physiology. As you can see, the objectives are broken down and assessment is correlated with the levels of Bloom's taxonomy. And this was very handy because I've done my assessments for the past years that I've been teaching anatomy and physiology using these. So I know that I'm fully testing what needs to be tested, and it's considered a complete set of learning objectives for a college level anatomy and physiology course. So these objectives were used. They were also incorporated into the syllabus, which I'll show you in a little while. In spite of the challenges, I felt that implementation of Biology 102 in a hybrid format had the potential to offer several advantages over a pure face-to-face modality. A hybrid delivery method could facilitate deeper understanding of critical physiological concepts through student-centered learning activities. Also, students would have an opportunity to develop a better appreciation for the structure-function relationship that's so fundamental to homeostasis through online activities and experiences designed to integrate the anatomy and physiology of the systems that are being presented. And also, the didactic concepts mastered by active student learning in the online portion of the course would make the face-to-face on-campus laboratory experiences richer and more meaningful. The last thing is that I wanted to gain a little bit more of an experience using online modality for teaching anatomy and physiology. I also believe that a hybrid format for A&P2 was feasible because students who have already mastered the material in the prerequisite course, which as we said is Biology 101 or Anatomy and Physiology 1, have highly realistic expectations about the amount of work that's involved in getting through a course like this, and also have the requisite motivation, study skills, habits to provide them with every opportunity to be successful with a hybrid format for Anatomy and Physiology 2. So, although this was a challenging project, I felt that the design of a suitable hybrid format for A&P2 was not only possible, but it would create a rich and substantive learning opportunity for students. We offered the didactic portion of the course completely online, mainly utilizing a combination of videos created with Camtasia Studio by TechSmith, as well as Microsoft PowerPoint slides. Annotation of the PowerPoint slides during recorded lectures was accomplished through the use of a Wacom USB pen and tablet combination, so I was able to write on slides and annotate things and draw formulas, for example, underline things, highlight things, as you see here. Videos ranged anywhere from 15 to 35 minutes and were posted to the Blackboard course as MP4 files, similar to the one that you're watching right now. The PowerPoint slides used for the video lectures were also made available to students on the Blackboard course site. Now, the online learning portion of the course was accomplished by assigning several online assignments. These were designed to round out the understanding of students of some of the topics being covered, also to acquaint them with the procedures and the etiquette that are part of online learning. So their assignments consisted of several case studies, for which some independent research was usually needed, several discussion topics that required them to make an initial post and then follow up with secondary posts for at least 3 of the classmates' primary posts, and also 1 journal article analysis from the contemporary literature. In this course, this semester, we used a New England Journal of Medicine article about the cardiovascular system. The laboratory portion of the course was conducted on 5 Saturdays, spread throughout the spring semester, each laboratory running from 8 a.m. till 2:30 p.m. This allowed coverage of 3 to 4 labs in each session, and also allowed some time for 2 laboratory exams as well as question and answer sessions to clarify topics and answer questions students had regarding the online lecture material. Students took 3 lecture examinations and 1 comprehensive final at the CCM Testing Center. The lecture exams and the final exam constituted about 55% of the student's grade, with the final exam being worth 1 1/2 the point value of regular exams since it was a cumulative, comprehensive final and attested all the course content. I felt that 3 regular lecture exams plus a comprehensive final was sufficient to help the students maintain their pace of study through the course, but at the same time the amount of material tested on any one exam seemed reasonable and didn't seem overwhelming. The students' online assignments constituted about 20% of their Bio 102 grade. The 2 laboratory exams, as well as participation and laboratory reports, constituted 25% of the students' Bio 102 grade. I'd like to show you the way in which I set up the Biology 102 hybrid course. I won't spend too much time on this since I know you've seen these type of courses before. I'll try to restrict my comments mainly to highlighting some of the course design features and why I chose them. In the start here of the welcome page that we're on right now, some of the material we typically put in course information sheets for CCM, we put in here as well. I also introduced the students to some of the etiquette rules, as you see here in the middle of the page. And finally, down the bottom of the page, we also reproduced some information about what the students could see in the course. So we basically gave them an overview of the things that were available to them. And then at the bottom, we also explained the minimum technical requirements, my contact information, although it is in the contacts. And then we also use, in conjunction with A&P, a Mastering A&P website. The use of this site is optional, but many students find it very helpful. And so I wanted to explain the details about how students need to register for that, and also to provide them with a course ID that they would need to get into the course. Now, I did also make an orientation video for the students. I won't show you this, of course, but this is a video that was designed specifically for this course to take especially new students on a tour through different things so that they could see where the links were and where the materials were that would be most important for them to begin with while they were getting acclimated. I thought this was especially important since videos would play such a pivotal role in the delivery of the course content. Provided the contact information. One of the things I did here that I was very glad I did was at the very bottom you'll notice that I provided detailed steps for how students should register for and take their exams at the CCM Testing Center where they were going to take their lecture exams. This really was very important. It was very successful as well because I really didn't have questions about the scheduling for exams or about the students taking their exams on campus. So I thought this worked very well. Now I also provided students with a link to my course site. I maintain an outside course site which is gsariani.com, and this course site is one that I use with my on-campus anatomy and physiology students. This particular one is for my Biology 102 or Anatomy and Physiology 2. Many of the things that are on this site don't really apply to the hybrid students, but there are several things that I thought they would find useful. One of the things here, although we do reproduce this on the Blackboard site as well, is several things about the Mastering A&P website and also about viewing information about the CCM Science Center in case students needed tutoring or wanted to get together in the Science Center to perhaps study. So there are some instructions to register. As I move down the table a little bit, you'll see a table of contents. Of course, this course information is not really applicable to the students. But when we get down to the lecture materials, I have slides that my on-campus anatomy and physiology students use. But more importantly, I have links in here to explore in many of the topic areas. And I thought these might be useful as well for the students who are taking the hybrid course. Some of the things I have on here that might also be of use to the hybrid students would be these. These are tutorials and some worksheets that help the students go a little bit more deeply into some of the material that we're exploring. And then one of the things that I found very useful, especially this past winter with the bad winter that we had, was that the videos that I was making for the hybrid course I could also use for my on-campus students if we happen to miss a lecture, or if they thought the lecture was complicated enough that they would like to be able to watch it multiple times. So as you see here, what I did, for example, with this very difficult concept, which is the cardiac cycle diagram, I posted the video and the PowerPoint slides, the same ones that I use on the hybrid course. And this worked out very well for the students that are taking the on-campus Biology 102 as well. As I go down to the laboratory materials, the slides and the laboratory instructions, laboratory reports, answers to the laboratory manual exercises, all of these were very useful for the hybrid students because we were doing the laboratory on campus. And I didn't really want to reproduce all this material on the Blackboard course site. I didn't really think it was necessary to do all that. Here's an overview of the Syllabus and Policies page. We put some typical things on here like the academic policies from CCM, the course syllabus, the lecture assignments, lab assignment expectations. And we put these in 3 different formats, in the doc format, MS Doc formats, PDF, Adobe format, as well as rich text format. In addition to the assignment expectations for both lecture as well as laboratory, one of the features I added on here was an online assessment assignment calendar that would provide due dates for the students. Just to show you what that is, you can see here that this provides a table that the students could look at and find out when the due dates were for their online assignments. And you'll notice here, for example, we have introductory posts for the students. We also have case studies, so a due date associated with particular case studies. For their discussions, remember we said before that there was an initial post due on a certain date, and there was also follow-up post due. So here we can see the initial post date, and here we could see below that the follow-up post for at least 3 of their classmates. The students found this very useful. They were, I guess, able to post it in some place where they could see it all the time. And I really didn't have many students at all late with the assignments because of lack of knowledge of when the assignments were due. So this worked out really very well. And then the remaining item on this page is the grading policy, as you see on the bottom, and we reviewed this in the PowerPoint slides previously. As far as lecture modules and how we set the course up, what I did was I set the course up as you see here by weeks. So for example, the cardiovascular system occupied the first 4 weeks of the course. And for each of those weeks, of course, the students had either case studies, discussions, a journal article, plus of course they had to watch the videos and look at the PowerPoint slides that were available to them. If I look at the cardiovascular system, which was weeks 1 through 4, you can see in the panel at the left here the breakdown of how these things were. We had some items that we thought would be helpful for the students, for example, Anatomy Explorer for the cardiovascular system, some exercises and worksheets. For week 1, as an example, you can see this was blood, and we had a general questions item available for the students to post their questions so that they would get used to interacting with each other rather than asking me questions about the course. We also had a couple of other things like a malaria game, NIH blood disorders, those sort of things that we thought would help the students go into a little bit more detail about some of the things. And down the bottom you can see the PowerPoint slides, which were put into one module. So this happened to be Lecture 1, Parts 1, 2, and 3. And then the Camtasia videos that went along with the PowerPoint slides, you can also see that these correspond in Lecture 1, Part 1, 2, and 3. Down the bottom of this table you can see the cardiovascular system assignments. Now the objectives that you see on this page are the same ones that I showed you previously that come from the Human Anatomy and Physiology Society website that we looked at earlier. There also were lab modules that were put here. Now I did not reproduce the laboratory slides online. However, my outside website, gsariani.com, did have those slides, and the students were able to look at them and also look at the laboratory reports that were due, so they were able to get some handle on those things. For each week's laboratory, what I did was I set up basically the objectives, what the students would accomplish, and we also set up some preliminary things that would help them get ready for the laboratory. I provided some lecture exam study guides for the students that highlighted the objectives that I wanted them to know. I did that for both the lecture exams as well as the laboratory exams. There were 2 of those. And of course I posted my lecture exams here on the site, and they were password protected, and when the students went to take the exams at the testing center, the proctor for the exam would input the password and the students would be able to access the lecture exams. I wanted to do a quick comparison between the lecture exam performance of the students taking Biology 102 on campus and those students taking the course in the hybrid format, and this graph shows you the results. As you can see in the slide, the lecture exam performance was generally comparable for both course formats. The only item of concern to me was the noticeably poorer performance on Exam 3 for those students who were taking the course in the hybrid format. This exam is what I'd consider the most difficult in the course, since it covers several different topics, including the endocrine system, the urinary system, as well as water, electrolyte, and acid-base balance, which I talked about a little bit before. Before the course is run again in the fall of 2015, I'm going to re-examine the item analysis I generated for Lecture Exam 3 to see if I can discern an area of weakness that I might be able to correct, using perhaps additional activities or providing additional resources, or somehow modifying the videos that I used. Now, as you can see at the bottom of the slide, I also highlighted the withdrawal rate, and as you can see here, the withdrawal rate for the hybrid course students was about 2/3 or so higher than that in the on-campus course. Perhaps this isn't too surprising, given that a potentially complicating factor in the form of distance learning technology is added to an already demanding course. One of the 4 students who withdrew from the hybrid course logged into the course only once, came to one Saturday laboratory session, and then virtually disappeared. I suspect that the student shouldn't have registered in the first place for a course with a distance learning component. The remaining 3 students dropped after taking the first lecture exam and attending only 1 or 2 lab sessions, citing either family obligations or time limitations as their main reason for withdrawing. During the laboratory and in email and other exchanges with students in the Hybrid Biology 102 course, there were several general categories of favorable comments, as you can see on this slide. First of all, the students seemed to respond most favorably to the flexibility offered by the partially online format, and also expressed approval of the laboratory meetings that required students to come to campus only 5 times during the semester. And the majority of students who registered for the hybrid course this semester were older students who had outside obligations such as family responsibilities, children, and work, and most were very happy to be able to adapt their school and study schedules to their other obligations. Comments from students indicated that the combination of videos and PowerPoint slides was quite adequate for them to learn the course material and meet the course learning objectives. They were especially grateful for the opportunity to review the videos as many times as they needed in order to grasp some of the more difficult concepts. In addition, students seemed to react favorably to the number of exams used for the course for lecture, which reinforced my reasoning for including 3 lecture exams and a final exam. During laboratory sessions, I informally polled the students regarding their feelings about case studies and discussions for the course. Most felt that these online activities gave them a more complete understanding of some of the course topics, and in addition helped them prepare more completely for lecture exams. Attendance in the lab was virtually 100% during our on-campus sessions, and students responded well to alternating introductions with practical, hands-on work for the 6-hour period during which they were in the laboratory. They seemed to remain enthusiastic and interested in the material we covered for the entire laboratory period. Now, as I described earlier, learning objectives for the Biology 102 hybrid course were implemented using the HAPS learning objectives that have become a standard set of completion goals and learning objectives for college-level anatomy and physiology. Students were assessed using examination questions that were tied directly to these goals. One of my goals for the course was to be able to offer a flexible alternative to the on-campus Biology 102 course, and considering the student comments that I received previously, I think this was successfully implemented and very well received by the students. Another one of my original goals was to enhance the students' learning experience through the use of exercises and projects designed to allow the students to deepen their knowledge in some of the topic areas of the course. As previously described, this was done through case studies, discussions, and a journal article analysis, all of which appeared to help the students apply the knowledge gained from the course and augment their understanding beyond what they might have achieved otherwise. A final goal for the course was to help me gain more experience in designing and implementing online learning. Although I'm certainly no stranger to technology and I really enjoy using it, I'd never before been the primary instructor for an online course component. This was an incredibly valuable learning experience for me, and I feel it's given me the experience and confidence to design and offer more learning courses or components in the future. There were several things that I experienced during the running of the course that I feel can be improved in the next and subsequent offerings of the Biology 102 hybrid. I felt that the students could have a better learning experience with the Camtasia videos with just a couple of small changes that include adding a non-graded quiz to the end of the videos, and also adding a table of contents to the videos that will make it easier for students to return to a specific part of a module that they want to watch again. Now, as I mentioned earlier, in an effort to determine the cause of the lower performance of the hybrid course students on Lecture Exam 3, I'm going to return to the item analysis I generated previously for the exam, and based on the subject matter in which I felt the students were weakest, I'll add some of the resources or even modify some of the videos accordingly. I also hope to add more resources in general throughout the course for students wanting to deepen their understanding further or access alternative instructional content to clarify some of the topics that they're having problems with. And finally, I'd like to implement some type of screening tool for students to use prior to registering for the course that might allow them to assess whether or not a hybrid or completely online learning modality suits their learning style and preferences. So finally, thank you once again to all the people who collaborated to make this course possible. I genuinely appreciate your help, your advice, your guidance, and I hope this review has given you some ideas that you can apply toward your own coursework. Thank you very much.